you guys, so thank you very much for being a part of this. Please tell people about this festival and specifically about the movies in this festival, because that's what it's all about. But we want to get this started for you guys because I know you're here for that. And I want to bring up the director of operator, Logan Kibens.
Thank you so much for being here. It's incredible to be here in Chicago, and it feels like an art wedding to have so many different parts of our lives here. Sharon and I both credit Chicago as being our artistic home, and so many of you in this room are such a crucial part of that. So thank you guys so much for doing this festival, for programming our film, and for knowing that this is about the community and this is about the city, and letting us bring everybody here to support Chicago filmmaking and the Neo-Futurists. Thank you. I can't wait for you to see yourselves on film. Wait, do you want to say something?
I just want to say this is a deeply personal film. We made it together, we made it with our community, and we're so glad to bring it back and share it with that community. Enjoy Operator.
Sounds like you liked it. Thank you. Okay, let's bring up. Everybody there? Can't see. Okay, can't see anything. Let's bring back, I should say, the director, Logan Kibens. Logan Kibens. Yay, and co-writer as well. Co-writer was Sharon Greene, who was up here before, but not going to officially introduce before. And one of the stars of our film, Martin Starr, right here.
I want to bring Aaron Cruz, our producer, and JJ Ingram, our everything, my everything, JJ. And Stephen Pettiville, our cinematographer.
All right, so everybody can't even see. Oh yeah, we may have to forego the chairs, but you guys can sit if you want. No. You sit here, Logan, I'll stand.
I'm comfortable right now.
Seems really funny. I'm gonna leave this open in case you change your mind. There we go. Here.
Does somebody want this seat? There's an open seat.
You sit.
No.
All right, so.
Hey, there's a whole lot of people in the house tonight that worked on this film. Can we get everyone who worked on this film to stand up? Give them a round of applause.
I think that counts as our first standing ovation, right? Because it's most of the audience. All right.
It's for them.
Yes, exactly. So this screenplay sort of started as from a very personal place. And can you talk a little bit just about beginning the process of goodness, I'm gonna have to stand down here. All right.
Stay with us.
Just talking about the beginning and the process of getting the script going and what inspired it, between the relationship between the two of you. Let's start there.
All right, I'm going to focus in. I'm going to be smart now. Promise. Okay, we'll just go deep. You want to go deep? Let's do that. So, Sharon and I have been together for almost 16 years at this point.
Nice.
This is going to be my alarm clock every day, just cheering for our relationship. So we lived in Chicago for a long time, and we moved to Los Angeles so that I could go to grad school at CalArts to study directing. And about a year later, Sharon enrolled at USC for screenwriting. And basically that schedule made it so that we were always working. We were sort of working on ourselves individually. We've, pride ourselves in our relationship about supporting each other individually as artists. But we went so far into that going through a grad school program, going through that artistic process is just a lot of change. It's a lot of changing as an individual, and it's a lot of then having to learn about who you are, much less learn about who your partner is. And we found ourselves not really sharing the same space anymore. Like, our schedules were polar opposites. And then it was like, well, what is this relationship if it's not a sort of logistical reality anymore? And we had a really interesting moment and talk about it. And even though there was no kind of logistical reason to be together, still there was this deep connection. And we decided together to do the active work of coming together as a couple again. And we wanted to tell a story about the real work that takes, because there's a lot of films that just stop at that point. The couple gets married and then everything's fine after that. So, and we just wanted to show what it takes to do that real work.
So it's about what happens after happily ever after.
Exactly.
Exactly. Oh, thank you. Well, you went to was it your BFA at Art Institute here? Yeah. Okay. So more Chicago. And then one of you was in Neo-Futurists.
I was in the Neo-Futurists for 6 years, from 2003 to 2008.
Wait, is that not on? Hold on. Can you hear? Hello.
Hello.
Take this.
I was in the Neo-Futurists from 2003 to 2008. And it was one of the most artistically transformative moments in my life. That practice of making work every week lets you grow your voice and find who you are and what your strengths are. And I think I'm one of the few people who've ever come through the company and discovered that my strengths were in narrative. And so when we did move to LA, there was not the sort of infrastructure of live theater there that there is here. And I was like, how can I take what I do well and bring it to film? And I went on a journey to try to transform my skills into that.
Can you, both of you, talk about the importance and the significance of shooting in Chicago? Like, was this something you no matter whatever story we come up with has to be in Chicago, whatever? Yeah.
I think also that when this first moment when we'd been married for a short while and I joined the company, we were together before I joined the Neos and Too Much Light, happened here in Chicago, and it felt emotionally like that the story's home was here, and we couldn't really imagine telling it anywhere else. And also we had a little axe to grind. Chicago is featured in lots of films and television shows, but often the parts of Chicago that are featured are the gritty underbelly of Lower Wacker Drive, and that's just not the Chicago we lived in, and maybe that makes us boring, but we lived in a beautiful Chicago. We lived in the Lakeshore Chicago and the North Side Chicago, and we wanted to come and show Chicago the way we experienced it, which was as kind of a wonderful place to live, surrounded by community.
And then you have an incredible cast of very
Hold the microphone.
of people who are both really great at you have an incredible cast of people who are really great at both comedy and drama. I'm wondering, can you just talk about connecting with Martin and May, or Martin? How did you connect with these two?
How did I connect with Logan?
How did you get?
Is that the question?
Yes, I guess so.
Right on. Well, we went to the farmer's market. We had ourselves a real sweet lunch. We talked.
We met in the middle of the Armenian Genocide Parade.
That's true. So let's take a minute to talk about Armenia. Yeah, we had trouble getting to lunch that day. As Armenians had trouble living a long time ago. So listen. Is it too soon? So we sat down, we had lunch, and to be honest, at that point, I don't think I had read the script, and we had a really good conversation. And then I read the script, and I fell in love with it, and then we talked again. And then we ended up here. Now we're talking to you people. And this is all going pretty well so far. So that pretty much sums it up.
Martin, when I spoke to you in Austin a couple months ago, I remember you told me that it wasn't the script that sold you, it was that conversation, that just talking about it more than reading it. Is that pretty unusual? Is that how you operate most of the time when you're deciding on projects, or is that unusual?
No, I mean, it's definitely part of the process. Life is too short to spend a month or 2 or 3 working with people that you don't want to spend time with. That's how I feel, and I'm in a really fortunate position that I'm able to coordinate my life as such. So like if I can work with cool people, that's my prerogative. Is to be able to work with people who have a story to tell and something that I can add something to. And when I met Logan, she had a perspective and a purpose, and she had I don't know, we really just bonded, and I could see myself spending a month with her, and then I also happened to love the script. So all things aligned. But yeah, some you know, you have a few bad experiences, and you're like, I don't need to do that again. That's not something I need to do. So
I would say Martin really understood and was interested in the exploration of masculinity, which I don't.
That's me.
I think some people were shying away from that. It was hard to entice people to go into the vulnerable aspects of that. And the sort of full spectrum of what that is, you know. But he was very interested in exploring that, and he's a full spectrum man.
Yeah, I still explore my masculinity from time to time. Not too often. What?
Often in the guest house.
Right on. They've got a nice house, but they don't invite me in much. Is what
To sort of follow up on that point that you were just talking about,
Your mic isn't on.
Yes, to explore what you were just talking about, sir. We sort of live in this really unfortunate time for female directors and female actresses. It's sort of what we see out there on the internet from what we could probably call sort of entitled basement dwellers in a way. And I was sort of interested and wondered if you look at the film now, a lot of all this garbage that's been going on with, not to mention Gamergate, Ghostbusters, all these things that have gone on, and just the way Martin's character has these panic attacks. And I'm just wondering if you sort of view the film now in any way that those panic attacks are sort of representative of kind of what's going on in our culture.
Good question.
I think it's an interesting thing that happens to a piece of work when you make it, and then it can be interpreted in its context that it lands in, right? So, from my perspective, no, but I think that's a fascinating read on it, and just is where you can look at it from where we are now. Panic attacks are, because I struggled with panic attacks for a while.
Yeah, this is from reality. This isn't attempting to make a social statement here. I think ultimately this is coming from the reality of Logan's life.
But I would say it has aspects of commenting on gender, so in that way, absolutely.
Sure. Martin, didn't you, I also remember you telling me that with the panic attack sequences that you really worked hard before you start shooting on figuring out where that, because I mean, different things in different lives trigger those in everybody that has them, and you tried to sort of find something in yourself. And I seem to remember you, speaking of exploring your masculinity, saying that you would sort of practice in the shower.
I always explore my masculinity.
Yeah.
I think we've been over
Did
this.
you practice doing it in the shower, like panic attack in the shower? But talk about, like, where did you dig to sort of make that happen?
Your memory's too good.
I'll stop.
Because panic attacks are something that come from different places and different people, I explored it in my own way and found myself inducing them before we started shooting, and that's what helped me to feel like they were real in the moment, because the only thing that I couldn't express something that I hadn't experienced, and so it didn't make sense to me. It feels like a weird acting lecture that I don't feel appropriate giving to anybody. But when it comes down to it, honesty is the most important thing to me, and so I didn't feel like I could be of any assistance to Logan if I couldn't be honest in those moments, and so I knew I had to experience panic attacks to some degree, and I did leading up to the movie.
We haven't even mentioned really May yet, but we should. I mean, the movie, and you have a great cast, but it doesn't work without the exact right person to play that role. Can you talk just about not only landing on her, but also she has to deliver so many lines in a very specific, soothing, slightly authoritative, but she has to do those readings in a very specific way. So can you talk about working with her to get that exactly right?
Yeah, I mean, May has a long voiceover career, which is a pretty awesome.
I know she does
component of
animated,
this.
like a lot of animated stuff. Yeah.
So she just has so much control over that. And I would say, I feel like the Neo-Futurist plays for May are like the panic attacks for Martin's character. And she was really nervous about doing them and maybe hadn't had that experience of performing in front of a live audience. So they were mostly shot chronologically. We did her first play first, and the audience was so naturally responsive that I think within the shooting of those scenes, she got that feeling of what it feels like to be filled up by a live audience and to have that immediate feedback. And that really helped the arc of her character go through those plays where she becomes more comfortable and more grounded. So I don't know if that's answering your question. I just diverted.
Well, I was even referring to the line readings that she's doing for Martin's job, for that. That they have to be the company is looking for a very specific voice.
We did a lot of those in post-production, but we recorded, so the play where she talks to herself on the phone, her second to last play, I guess, we really quickly on set recorded her doing those lines so that we could play them back while we were shooting the scene, so she could actually be interacting with her own voice. She did 2 takes, and they were both awesome, and I'm like, oh, great. You got this. There's not, So I think it's probably her own preparedness that I can't speak towards, and then just good casting and hopefully creating a good vibe on set that allows her to do good work. So.
Yeah, no, she's great. We're going to ask a couple more questions, but we're going to put a mic right here. If you guys, anyone has questions, just come up to the mic. We sort of get a little line going here, and then you can ask anyone up here.
It's not there yet, but it'll be there soon.
It'll be there magically.
We're waiting on the mic.
Here it comes.
Hey,
Okay.
wow, magic.
We haven't really, it's funny that when I think about this film, and I've thought about it since South by Southwest, there's a message in here about technology and that age-old, now it's become an age-old adage about the more technology comes about that is supposed to bring us closer, it's actually sort of pushing us apart from each other. What is your feeling about technology and its role in our lives today? And this could go to anyone up here who wants to answer.
I'm eager to answer this. Thank you, Mark.
Yours works, but okay.
I mean, I think we thought about this a long time. One of the seeds of the project was that we fell in love with one of the first really successful IVRs, a false woman called Julie, who works for Amtrak. And we love Julie. We're from Michigan, and so we used to take Amtrak from Chicago to Michigan all the time to see our families. And we loved her. She made our life better, and we did occasionally call her just to say hi. But as we did the research, and we did embed with a company that builds and designs IVRs, we learned a lot about it. I think for me at least, the takeaway was that the idea that technology destroys our ability to be close or be communicative is ludicrous. The thing about technology is it's made by us and it's made out of us, and it inherently has all the flaws that we do. And so we can strive and fight to design better technology that serves our humanity instead of accidentally designing technology that harms us. So we have to be alert, like all the systems in our world that are maybe broken or discriminatory or all the things that can go wrong when you build a system that begins to function without our own oversight. Technology is that. So instead of saying, oh, phones destroy our ability to truly be close or communicate, no, how we use phones and how we designed our phones, it's on us. And that was at least how I came away. And I think that's more helpful for me, at least as an understanding, than saying phones bad, people good. Phones are us. Phones are us, and how we use them are us. People have problems, and that's on us. Us, that's how I feel.
So, you filmed this movie last June and July 2015. Thanks. So you filmed this movie in June and July of 2015. And I've been in the Neo-Futurist theater before. What was it like filming that movie and those scenes in that very small theater?
It smelled awesome. It was such an awesome week, though. I mean, it was really hot, but it's really hot when you go see a show there, and it's still an incredible experience. We took Martin and May to the Pride show, which was the same day as Doma was overturned, correct? Yeah. Right? So it was an amazing show. And it was probably 95 degrees, and we had the best time ever. And that was kind of the same experience shooting, honestly. I'm not trying to gloss over some truths. It was super fun to shoot in the theater and to have the energy of our fantastic Neo-Futurists. So yeah, it was, I think we were able to ignore that because of how fun it was.
Stephen, do you want to talk about the camera setup and what we did differently in the Neos to capture the live feeling and the motion in the theater?
Sure, yeah. Hey. So yeah, actually that's right, that the theater, the Neo-Futurists theater is a little smaller than all the other places we've been shooting at. And we also wanted a different texture for this, and it's actually all painted black, so that made it challenging for the light, but actually we switched the camera to smaller cameras and more sensitive camera, so we've been able to make it with the real light that we totally rearrange, of course. But yeah, that was challenging on this side and the technical side.
I just want to add something to what Logan was saying. In addition to, I mean, the Neo-Futurists were amazing. They really welcomed us with completely open arms, as if we had been part of their family for a long time, as Sharon was and Logan was. But the rest of us, we had no relationship with them. But they made us feel as if we did, and completely welcome. And on top of that, our crew, when it is so hot and everybody's tired, they were, I don't know, 12, 14-hour days. One was maybe 16. There was no complaining.
You think just the one was 16?
At least
that one.
We called it our Shakespeare day because a lot of stuff was happening. But you know, a lot of them are here, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank them for making the experience so smooth.
Yeah, we had
and
a badass crew.
Yeah, they really were amazing. So thank you guys. Before we turn it over to you, we should mention when we booked this film, and actually leading up to the screening tonight, we were going to tell you that this film didn't have a distributor, but please tell us what has happened, what has been announced in the last
We've been purchased for distribution by a company called The Orchard. And we should have a release date in the fall. We don't know when.
And for those of you who've been with us all week, you have seen three Orchard films already this week. So, and they're all really great. Okay, let's first question.
Hi, this is kind of a two-parter. So for Logan, even though this is about a personal experience, do you feel like this is applicable to all relationships and it has something to teach? And for Martin, did you learn something from playing this role in this film?
Great questions. I hope so, absolutely. I've always felt like the more personal you get with something and the more specific you get with something, the more universal it can be, and the more people can sort of attach themselves to a character. And I hope that in this, there are multiple people you can attach yourself to. And I feel that the problems are universal. I mean, an answer to sort of your technology question, which is a little bit your question, I feel like the connection between anxiety and dependence on technology is pretty direct, and something that we were trying to talk about in the film, because there's a need to express yourself as perfect. I mean, we all go on Facebook or Twitter or whatever and see how awesome our friends are doing. And then we actually go out to dinner with them and they talk about how terribly they're doing. But when you only see that, surface, sort of everybody's personal billboard that we all get to have now, you can feel like you're alone in your vulnerabilities. So I think that's true of any relationship, and that can also be true of a sort of your closest intimate relationship. So to me, that was Martin's character's journey of feeling like he had to be perfect and optimized, and then realizing that the people who loved him actually wanted him to be vulnerable and express his flaws so that they could show those back to him and express theirs.
Whereas in reality, I'm totally optimized. In touch with my masculinity. I feel like the lesson that I would have learned had I not already had it in my wheelhouse is that relationships take work, and it's not easy to step into. Even if you love someone, it's not like the wheels don't click 100% of the time, So you have to put in work. To me, that's part of what I learned once again from this process.
All right.
You know what I mean? Sometimes you need to learn lessons over and over again, like about my masculinity. It just keeps coming up.
Actually, for $5, anyone can get in touch with Martin's masculinity.
I charge $7 now, so it's $7. I include a $2 tip.
Yes, sir. Great job, everyone, and thank you for coming. Also, thank you for filming it in Chicago. Just to touch on what you said, trying to include locations that aren't as well seen in movies. Where exactly were some of the other ones you filmed? I know the theater and the cultural center, but I was curious, where were the other locations at?
Can we do a shout out to our awesome locations manager?
JJ,
Bobby's here.
Ben, Bobby in the house. JJ, you want to feel this one? You want to talk about that?
I mean, most of them were in the Andersonville area, and we also shot in Portage Park. It's truly a congratulations to our wonderful locations people. They just took to the task of knocking on doors, putting up flyers, and fielding, people and they found people that were interested in opening their home. As many of you may or may not know, when a film crew comes in, it's an overtaking, and just finding people that were willing to let us come in and be accommodating. The hotel scene was shot at the Belden Apartments over in Lincoln Park. So everyone was very accommodating, and once you find that perfect match of a location that's willing to be helpful to the indie film community. Because a lot of times when you say you're filming something, they think, oh, they have thousands and thousands of dollars, and we didn't have thousands and thousands of dollars. So Chicago is awesome. Chicago rocks. Everyone should come and film here because we are very open to the indie community.
And everybody should hire JJ because she's awesome. And was a lot of our lifeblood on this film. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, my question is pretty simple and straightforward. I'm just wondering, anyone...
About my masculinity.
No, that's not the question, but thank you. The question is, and anyone can answer, or multiple people can answer, is there a spiritual theme to your movie? And if there is, what would you say it is?
Anyone can answer. Anyone.
Anyone on stage.
Okay. So, a little more specific. I feel like Logan, this is your handling.
Okay, but we gotta have more than just me. The first thing that I thought of when you asked the question, and it's a good question, it's just a difficult one,
I know.
is something that I thought about for Martin's character, but also actually something that I said to Christine Lottie in her scene where she gets the injection. Well, for her it was the opposite for her character in that moment, but that you are enough, basically, and I think that's the summary of what Martin's character has to learn. You don't have to be fully prepared for everything. You don't have to know what is going to happen from A to Z. You just have to know that you are enough to handle whatever you're going to walk into. For her character, I actually would whisper to her that she's not enough. Because that's her fear, but spiritual.
I think something else we were definitely exploring was empathy. And I think that lots of films actually address the idea that we need to be more empathetic in our lives, and that having more empathy for one another across the board would solve a lot of our problems as a people. But I also think that the film looks at empathy from the other side. Some people have a lot of empathy. Empathy comes to them very naturally, and that creates a very dangerous situation where they'll destroy themselves for others. So I think something we were particularly meditating on in this film is the way empathy has to be monitored from both sides. Some people must strive to be more empathetic, and others must check themselves and say, am I consuming myself for others? Should I have more boundaries? Should I?
The balance.
Yeah, and I don't know if that qualifies as spiritual, but I think thinking about empathy is a big part of my spiritual practice, and so this was certainly an exploration of empathy from a direction maybe that you don't usually see on screen.
Okay, we got time for these last couple people in line here.
Thank you for
gotta
answering.
clear the theater.
Sure. Great question.
Hi, I felt a particular connection to Martin's character in the hospital scene where he's not really believed when he's trying to tell the doctor that my mother is non-compliant, and that's her lying voice. I had a lot of that with my own mother. I used to try to leave notes for the doctors to say this woman can't be believed. I actually have a very strong memory of sitting in an appointment with her after she fractured her femur, and talking with her about all the things she needed to tell the doctor. And when the doctor walked in and said, "How are you?" she said, "I'm great, how are you?" And since you talked about how a lot of the things in the film were related to things that actually happened to you, I was actually curious to hear any more about the relationship and the whole the relationship of medicine is trust, but there's this a character who cannot be trusted at all, and the communication is pointless.
I can say that I worked as a medical assistant at various points in my life, and so I've worked in a lot of hospital and high-stress situations, and I have had a number of experiences where I observed what it sounds like you've experienced, where someone in the room was trying to convey truth, but it was you were hearing multiple truths from different people, and it was, from the perspective of a medical provider, sometimes hard to assess who was telling the truth. But I think the character of the mother, particularly without pointing fingers or laying blame, we wanted to get a glimpse into where some of Martin's character's anxiety and fear of change or fear of imperfection might have come from. Christine did such a beautiful, subtle and emotional job of evoking that person and making her incredibly compassionate and lovable, you can be a good person and still lie to your doctor. It happens all the time. So I think a lot of the medical things related to Christine's character came from my early life as a medical assistant, things I saw in these very private rooms where important truths and lies get told.
All right, yes, last question.
All right, last question. I think there's a lot for a lot of different people to relate to in this film, especially we touched on empathy. I think we have also all experienced interacting or trying to interact with IVR systems. So I wanted to ask, how did that idea come up to include IVR systems? Were you annoyed with an IVR system in the past and you've been frustrated? And then the idea to actually kind of go behind the scenes of an IVR system and somewhat humanize it. Can you talk about that?
Sure, yeah. You just reminded me of an answer to that. So it's complicated, but we started writing it in 2011, so it's before Siri was a thing. So it was really based on this, well, part of it was based on this Amtrak voice that Sharon spoke about.
Right.
One answer to it is that my father worked in artificial intelligence for his whole career, and specifically in language recognition. And my mom is a philosophy teacher. So we just thought that wanted to paint something that was a representation of a person that you could anthropomorphize enough to feel it was human, but also that the audience could see as like just a pretty thin replica of an actual person. So something that could have both of those perspectives. But what you reminded me of is actually, while we were still developing the structure of the film, I was trying to call for healthcare. And I was talking to an actual person, and I was half an hour into the conversation and going through the various questions and thinking it was all going fine, but relatively annoying, until she started asking me about my prostate. And I was like, I think we might have some fundamental things wrong between us. I think we might need to start this application process over. And she didn't seem to really care. So I feel like I had a lot of experiences, and you did also, of speaking to actual customer service agents who are capable of empathy and are capable of common sense, who will not access that human emotion. And sometimes you just would rather talk to a robot who doesn't have that capacity, who you can swear at if you want to, and it'll just, so all of those things combined, probably.
Yeah. But how's your prostate?
$5.
On that note, just for people who are coming to the after party, your name is either on a list or you've got a VIP badge or a filmmaker badge. You can check in at the lounge to see if you're on the list or not. And everyone involved in the operator, we thank you. Chicago thanks you for coming out again, showing us the finished product. Thank all of you for coming out for the festival and tonight and everything. And don't forget your ballots. Thank you.